What's up, Stellar Blade fans? Okay, I just couldn't resist. I was tempted by the tree of knowledge that is the Stellar Blade demo and decided to watch some gameplay clips that are out in the wild on YouTube. So just know that this is not my gameplay that I'm talking over. You might ask, why the heck did I do this and spoil things here for myself? Well, I know I'm going to get the game, and although I usually try not to spoil things in narrative video games, movies, or other story-driven pieces of media, I just couldn't resist. Like I mentioned, I was tempted by the hanging fruits of the analogous Tree of Knowledge manifested in the Stellar Blade demo. You guys will notice I've already dropped a couple of mentions of the Tree of Knowledge from Christian religion, because I'm trying to get you warmed up to what this video is going to be about. I'm going to tie in some Christian religion and hopefully explain to you how Shift Up has borrowed from these influences in Stellar Blade. Okay, so after watching the demo, we can tell some immediate things. Yes, the combat seems great, the graphical fidelity and beauty of Eve, Tachy, and even the grotesque enemy Naytiba is outstanding, and the story that we've been exposed to in the short length of the demo is definitely intriguing. The story is what I want to spend some time talking about. The story has really got me invested and already thought speculating at what is actually going on. In order to do this, I'll be looking at the story through the lens of religion, specifically Christianity. Shift Up, the South Korean development team, has stated that there are several of these influences seen within the game. There are clear instances of this with some enemies being named after demons from Christianity, such as Abaddon and Belial. But through looking a bit deeper with an analysis of what we see in the Stellar Blade demo and linking it together with this influence the Shift Up team is taking, we can make some determinations about where we think the story is going. Before we begin, I just want to state that influences are not one-to-one copies of the original work, story, or history. All artists are influenced by something that has come before it. An influence is something that helps inspire part of a new creation. Sometimes an artist might pull an influence from one area but leave something else they are not inspired by. Or artists might borrow a portion of one idea, but that's it. So when I say that Christianity has influenced Shift Up during their creative process, such as the development of their story and characters, it's necessary to remember that Shift Up no doubt pulled parts and pieces from Christianity, but may have left others on the proverbial cutting room floor. Furthermore, these are simply my thoughts about what I think Shift Up did and how they were influenced. Your thoughts may be completely different from mine, but this is simply what I made of the information we know already from Sony's Stellar Blade website and the trailers we've received so far. I understand religion is a loaded topic, but if we step back and appreciate what Shift Up is doing in taking influence from religion, I hope we can all appreciate the parts they were influenced by and see the cool ways they connect to this awesome looking video game. So with that being said, let's have some fun and start theorizing. Please allow me to share what I think the story of Stellar Blade is and where it'll go once we get the game's full release next month. Before diving into the demo, I'd like to point out the previous trailers to lay the groundwork for the themes we will see in Stellar Blade. Those are falling, sin, and temptation. These can all be considered quite Christian themes. I will get into that in a little bit, but let's first identify where they exist in Stellar Blade and where we've seen and heard these themes so far. We hear the old man Orkal in the trailer retelling of humanity's fall, stating that humanity has fallen so miserably. I do believe he is referring to humanity's fall against the Naytiba, but I think there's merit in saying he's also speaking about another quote-unquote fall, a figurative fall in which humanity has sinned and fallen from grace due to their actions. In Stellar Blade's first trailer, when the game was still known as Project Eve, the narrator at about the 1 minute mark, whom I believe is either Eve or Tachy, is having a discussion with Mother. I believe this Mother is the Mother Sphere that is referenced in the later trailers and the demo. Mother Sphere seems to be something like an artificial intelligence that all individuals on Earth can connect to via the network. As seen in the demo, when Eve happens upon a corpse, she investigates the body and we read the text Lament of Despair and learn more about this concept. One portion of this text states, The network has been destroyed. I'm completely disconnected from the colony's data link. We have nowhere to fall back to. Is this the Naytiba's doing? Is the colony safe? What happened to Mother Sphere? I also believe we've seen Mother Sphere before. Could it be the large sphere with hexagonal patterns that Eve interacts with when Adam and Lily Artemis are both present with her in the cradle? I believe part of the main story is to help Adam find the power source he is looking for, called Power Side. And upon finding enough of this, Eve can resurrect the life that is dormant in the cradle where Mother Sphere is located. I believe Eve is the only one capable of doing this, and it is somehow related to the Eve protocol. I'll go into this at the very end of the video, but for now, I don't want to swerve too far away from what I believe Mother Sphere is. Back to the cradle, the souls resting here have been there perhaps for a significant amount of time, so the cradle can be viewed as an eternal resting place, much like heaven. We know that Eve's mission is to destroy all Naytiba, but I also believe there is a hidden part of her existence as well, something related to her namesake being Eve. With her and Adam together, representing the biblical Adam and Eve, the first humans who brought forth all life, they will perhaps resurrect the dormant life within the cradle and bring about new existence on Earth once the Naytiba are wiped clean. Okay, back to the narration of the first trailer. The woman narrating states, "Our mother in heaven, our attempt to guard Earth was to no avail. We could not fulfill the sacred duty of defeating our enemies and saving humankind. But we now vow to descend again and devote what is left of our lives to fight. So forgive us our sins, watch over us, and lead us not into temptation." So here in the opening minutes of the first trailer, the very first time we learn about this video game Stellar Blade, we hear our protagonist talking about wanting forgiveness for their sins, and for Mother to not let them fall into temptation. So with having this groundwork laid out of knowing what the themes of Stellar Blade are, let's jump into the demo and talk about how we will see these themes play out. For me, the best part of the demo is this moment. Tachy and Eve are victorious, but then Tachy hears an incoming threat. They are blown back by an explosive impact, and then the dark-winged creature falls from above. Tachy exclaims, "Alpha Naytiba," as we see the monstrous character in full form. So who or what is this Alpha Naytiba? Upon looking at the Alpha Naytiba, we can see that the form/body is female. By looking at its silhouette, we can see a womanly figure because the torso resembles that of someone feminine. And as we look at the character in greater detail, what immediately jumps out at us is the black color, angel-like wings, and finally the bird-like features of feathers and legs. This figure seems to be someone who is tainted or even cursed, that maybe once was human or humanoid in appearance, but now has become the grotesque abomination that we see here. As the antagonist to Eve and Tachy, we are meant to see something sinister, dark, and daunting manifested within it. If we consider ourselves the inverse of this character, we, as the protagonist, can start drawing some conclusions based on what we know about Eve. By viewing things through a Christian lens, we can remember that in the State of Play trailer, countless NPCs in the city of Zion refer to Eve as angel. We now know this is because Eve fell from the sky/heavens in the opening moments of this demo. The people of Zion would have definitely seen the destruction of the failed attempt of the 7th Airborne Squadron, and view any being that fell from the heavens as an angel. In storytelling, antagonists are arguably meant to exist to be the foil of, and sometimes even the exact opposite, the protagonist. With that being said, we could argue that the Alpha Naytiba is an angel that has fallen from grace, an angel that has still kept its immortality, but has lost their purity and spot amongst heaven. So Eve is an angel that is pure and inspires the people of Zion, while the Alpha Naytiba is impure and tainted. The reason that this quote-unquote angel that has fallen from grace is immortal is because of what we have seen so far. Before I continue discussing the concept of the antagonist as an angel that has fallen, I think it's important for me to explain what I think it actually came from within the fictional Stellar Blade world. In the first trailer and Sony's State of Play trailer, there were clips of Eve underground in a subway station. We can see Eve walking by a large red lit-up advertisement of a human face that somewhat resembles Eve. In the first trailer, this is referred to as eternal. The advertisement says, "The eternal you've and then Eve's legs get in the way and the rest of the statement cannot be read. In the State of Play trailer, the advertisement now says eternity instead of eternal. Perhaps Shift Up changed the name from Eternal to Eternity because they wanted to differentiate their game from Marvel's movie Eternals. That movie came out in 2021, the same year the first Stellar Blade trailer dropped. I'm guessing this is the only reason for the name change to Eternity. I'll use the word Eternity instead of Eternal moving forward. You can kind of make out the last word in the State of Play trailer. I think it says wanted. So the entire statement seems to say the eternity you've ever wanted. This would seem to suggest that humankind created these humanoids. I don't think they are androids, but instead something more like the Blade Runner franchise as biologically produced replicant-like beings, meaning they are human in form and biology that bleed, because we saw a lot of blood from the other soldiers in Eve's squadron, and I think all of the squad members are of the same origin. However, these individuals are not born, but instead grown. Again, think Blade Runner or even the movie Gattaca, where Uma Thurman and Jude Law's characters are not natural-born individuals, but instead genetically designed. The individuals that comprise the airborne squads of Stellar Blade can therefore be made to look like whatever the creator imagines or designs. The eternity of the advertisement in the subway is the first version of Eve. I believe Eve is not a human that is born, but instead the latest model or iteration of an eternity that is genetically engineered with capabilities to augment her body through the synthetic attachments via her exospine. Plainly said, I believe Eve is the most updated and recent version of the eternity model we see in the advertisement. In the demo, we see a fallen soldier on the ground, and upon investigating the body, we see words written in the text titled, "The Last Words of the Helpless." In the text, we learn that it has been decades since the Naytiba attacked, which resulted in humans fleeing to the off-world colony. We also learn in the demo that there is a high-energy compression battery called a fusion cell. Eve doesn't recognize it until she compares it to the current generation's infinity cell, so it appears humankind has figured out a way to produce everlasting or near never-ending power sources. This is why we see technology such as the fusion cell in the old desolate car and the advertisement in the subway station still functioning, because they are still being powered by fusion or infinity cells. So now we can place these eternities as existing before the Naytiba attacked. The eternity in this advertisement is aimed at getting humans to purchase this product, a product that is desirable and made evident by the advertisement's statement of quote-unquote wanting it, as well as the alluring face presented at the forefront of the advertisement. I believe the Dark Alpha Naytiba figure we see in the demo is an eternity, but why then does it look the way it does? How did it get consumed by darkness, and why does it have bird-like wings and legs? I have a theory on this that draws parallels from Christian religion, specifically with the idea of sin, and more specifically the notion of having sex in a sinful way. In order for my thought to make sense, we must agree that the eternities were created to be of service to humankind. Perhaps they were first created for humankind as helpful companions, or perhaps something more lustful as a partner for humans to satiate their desires over in a more sexual manner. This may not be exactly what occurs in the story of Stellar Blade, but I do think Shift Up at least took inspiration for the Dark Alpha Naytiba from a type of sin seen in Christian religion. Let me explain. So here is where we'll get back into the three themes I outlined earlier: falling, sin, and temptation. Genesis 6:1-4 shares information about divine beings coming to earth and having sinful sex with humans. This short snippet from the Bible is all that exists about this particular account. What goes into greater detail about these events is the Book of Enoch. The Book of Enoch is not official biblical canon, and can best be thought of as a spin-off to the Bible that elaborates on the divine beings coming to earth and having sex with human women. The divine beings are said to be angels and are originally known as the Watchers, as they are supposed to be the watchers of humanity to help guide them as they live amongst them. However, Eventually, the Watchers become sexually attracted to human women. A group of 200 Watchers gathered on the summit of Mount Hermon. The leader shared his feelings of desire and lust for human women, and learned that all of the other Watchers, the total group of 200 of them, also had similar feelings. They decided that they would each take a human woman as a wife, but they knew their actions to each take a human wife were sinful and wrong. Still, they took the women as wives, and with them bore children known as the Nephilim. We'll get into the Nephilim more in a bit, as I believe they too fill a role in the world of Stellar Blade. But the point here is that the 200 Watchers were of divine origin, and the human women were lesser than them. They took advantage of the women, and in their lust for them committed sin out of their desire to have them. I believe the story of the 200 Watchers is an analogy for what humans did in the fictional world of Stellar Blade. If we think about humans and their evolution, we are coming upon the precipice of humanity being able to play at being God in terms of creating life. One could argue that in the modern world, with growing technology and the ability to grow organic material, create clones, and our increasing obsession and iteration of artificial intelligence, we real-world humans are becoming more like God in our ability to bring about new life more and more. Now, the angels in the book of Enoch are not God, and they do not create life, but my argument here is that the 200 Watchers had divine dominion over the women. They were of higher power, and the women were lesser. In Stellar Blade, I believe humanity did something similar with beings that were of a lesser power than them, beings that they had dominion over. They created life by making the eternities and were of a higher power than them. And just like what the 200 Watchers did with taking women as wives in the book of Enoch, the humans of Stellar Blade took the eternities for themselves. What happens next in the book of Enoch is that God becomes angry at both the 200 Watchers and the human women. He therefore has a consequence for each of them. For the angels, he banishes the 200 of them, and they become known as the angels that have fallen and committed sin. The Bible states that when angels commit a sin, there are 3 consequences. 1, being confined to the abyss. 2, imprisoned in Tartarus, a hellish landscape for eternity. Or 3, being left to continue committing their sins on earth. In this analogy, I believe humans represent the fallen angels, but instead of being cast out of heaven, they have been cast out of earth. As stated on Sony's official Stellar Blade webpage, humanity had to flee to an off-world colony. This is their consequence and fits in line with being confined to the abyss, but instead of the abyss of deep waters, the abyss that Stellar Blade's humanity is confined to is that of space. They lose their earth and are confined to the depths of deep, dark space as a consequence of their sin over the lust of the eternities they created. You might be saying to yourself, well, hold on, this is not why humanity had to flee Earth in the world of Stellar Blade. The information told to us in the State of Play trailer and the content posted on the website state that humanity had to flee because of the Naytiba. Yes, that is true, but I believe humanity's sin is multi-layered, that their sin is the lust for the eternities, and also with playing at being God in terms of trying to create life. I believe humanity has created both the eternities and the Naytiba. I want to talk about this sin as well, the sin of creating Naytiba, which I will a little later, but we first have to explore what God's consequence for the human women from the book of Enoch were. And here is where things really start connecting in a more direct way to what we see in Stellar Blade with the Dark Alpha Naytiba and the general low-level and boss enemy Naytiba. In God's anger at what occurred between the 200 Watchers and the human wives they took, God transformed the women into bird-like monsters covered in feathers. God transformed the human women because they had sex with the 200 Watchers and therefore took their beauty away and left them as monstrous bird-like creatures. Although it was the Watchers that originally wanted the human women because they were so enamored by their beauty, God also had sharp consequences for the women because they too also gave into temptation when the Watchers took them as wives. Therefore, God also places fault in the human woman, and we can conclude the human woman also committed sin. God's punishment for the human woman happened while they were pregnant from the lustful and sinful sex they had with the fallen angels when they were still human women. The transformed women, now bird-like monstrosities, gave birth to a race of extremely violent giants known as Nephilim, who killed and ate animals, humans, and consumed, or at least tried to consume, everything. The Book of Enoch describes Nephilim as the true origin of demons. They were monstrous giants that devoured everything. And if we look at the pre-existing illustrations of both the bird-like monstrosities and the Nephilim, it's really cool because they look quite similar or even identical to what we see in Stellar Blade with the Alpha Naytiba and the regular low-level and boss Naytiba as well. So now we have determined the inspiration for the black angel-winged bird like Alpha Naytiba that kills Tachy, and we also can see how the enemy design of the Naytiba was influenced by the Nephilim. The brute boss we see in the demo definitely fits the description of the Nephilim as a giant monstrosity. But, like I said in my introduction, we have to remember that the creatives at Shift Up may have been influenced by the Book of Enoch, but I don't believe they're pulling from it in a one-to-one retelling within their video game. Let's remember that this is a video game, and we as the protagonist need enemies to fight, and of course a main antagonist to challenge us along our heroic quest during gameplay. I don't necessarily believe that humans had sex with the Eternities. I don't believe the Eternities literally bore children that became the humanoid Naytiba enemies we see. I mean, maybe this occurred and we might see this in the story of Stellar Blade, but I don't think so. I believe the story about the fallen angels, human women, and the Nephilim are inspiration points or anchors that Shift Up used to represent humanity, Eve and the Eternities, and the Naytiba in their creative process for making the game. Okay, so now let's talk about the origin of the regular, low-level, and boss Naytiba, not the Alpha Naytiba. I believe their design is inspired from the Nephilim, and it's cool to think that the Alpha Naytiba are their quote-unquote mothers. Not actual mothers, but only in the sense that their design is pulled from the Book of Enoch, where the bird-like monsters are the mothers to the Nephilim. So the regular Naytiba are like the Alpha Naytiba's underlings / children, if you will. But in terms of where they come from, as I mentioned before, I believe humankind grew the Naytiba. There was some quick footage of Stellar Blade locations that I think a lot of people missed or have not seen. There were a handful of short videos released on Sony's official Instagram story a few weeks ago that showed 3 locations in Stellar Blade. One location had the caption Altesse Levoir. I tried translating it and the word Altesse came out to meaning highness in French and Hebrew. I didn't have much luck with the word Levoir, so I'm not quite sure what Altesse Levoir is referring to. However, the video clip showed 3 images of Altesse Levoir, which seemed to be a bunker / laboratory with hundreds of pods containing different organic specimens. And the last clip showed a version of one of the enemy Naytiba we saw in the State of Play trailer. When I first saw these clips, I thought they were in the cradle, the location where Adam is talking with Eve and Lily Artemis, which was seen extensively in the first trailer. The cradle is a place described by Adam in which many individuals are in a prolonged slumber and he is trying to find a way to power them up again. Altesse Levoir is not this place. It is not the cradle. Although the 2 places look similar, there is the absence of the central sphere that is present in the cradle. The large cylindrical bunker seen in the Altesse Levoir clips looks similar, but the pods holding the specimens are another giveaway that this is a different location. Also, you can now see Altesse Levoir on Sony's official Stellar Blade webpage. It appears on the page as you scroll downward. Here, you can get a view of the laboratory / bunker that holds the containers for the specimens. I believe Altesse Levoir is a place where humankind was playing God with creating life, but things went too far and horribly wrong with one or some of their creations. It is important to note that on the Stellar Blade Wikipedia, it states that the enemy Naytiba are an alien race, but this is never officially said in trailers or stated on Sony's official Stellar Blade webpage. It would be forgiven if someone assumed this because we do see a large mass in outer space attached to a space station in the first trailer, but we should note that the Naytiba are not officially stated to be of alien origin, so it seems that someone entered that information on Wikipedia off of the assumption they are an alien race. I believe, and I think several other eager fans do as well, that the Naytiba originated on Earth and is a result of something that was created by humans. I believe humankind was creating life in Altis Levoir, or they were at least creating a virus or some type of biological or organic components that became the Naytiba. In some type of event, either an accident or perhaps on purpose for some reason, it was released on Earth, and this is what has infected humans, animals, and all life. So we have to separate my two ideas about the Naytiba. One, the inspiration/design, and two, where they come from in terms of the story. I'd like to finish by talking about what the antagonist's motivation might be, what is in store for Tachy, and what Eve's purpose may be. Tachy is someone who I would really want on my team. She seems strong, competent, caring, and motivating, and above all, protective. I love the way Tachy interacts with Eve, and I can see how Tachy is a motivational force. Tachy seems to be protective of Eve. I think this protection is due to Tachy knowing there is something more to Eve's mission, that Eve is special in some way. As the leader of the 7th Airborne Squadron, Tachy might be privy to this knowledge/information, and Eve, as well as us as the player of Eve, are not. When considering Christian religion, Eve's number 07 could be a nod to the 7 days of creation. Her name Eve definitely signifies Adam and Eve and how all of humankind originates from them. So it's a safe assumption that she will have something to do with bringing about or creating new life. So in some way, Eve is special. We can see that the antagonist recognizes this. As she stands off with Tachy, she begins to circle towards Eve. Tachy doesn't realize this, but when she does, it's too late and the antagonist rushes towards Eve with what appears to be a killing blow. So why does the Alpha Naytiba want to attack Eve? Well, if we look at the Alpha Naytiba's chest, we can see a sharp protrusion coming from it. I believe the Alpha Naytiba that we see here is a member of the previous 6th Airborne Squadron. Their descent to Earth happened years ago, and at the time of their descent/deployment to Earth, the members of the 6th Airborne Squadron, perhaps the 6th iteration of an eternity, were the most advanced organic beings. In the beginning of the demo, we can hear the transmission stating the final briefing with the goal of defeating all Alpha Naytiba, so we know there are several of them. I believe the current Alpha Naytiba on Earth are all members of the 6th Airborne Squad that have been infected by Naytiba. So when they made their descent to Earth many years ago, they were attacked by an Alpha Naytiba that was from the 5th Airborne Squadron. The spike protrusion coming out of this Alpha Naytiba is a killing blow that seemed to occur through its back, with the protrusion coming out of its front sternum. Because we know that Naytiba is an infectious, growing virus-like entity, when this member of the 6th Airborne Squadron was stabbed by someone from the 5th Airborne Squadron, their wound was infected and therefore the growth spread throughout their body. The reason the Airborne Squad members become Alpha is because they, the most recent iteration of an eternity, are the most advanced at that time. Think about it in this way. When the 7th Airborne Squadron descends to Earth, they are the most advanced. In a previous cycle, when the 6th Airborne Squadron descended to Earth, they were the most advanced. The cycle before them was with the 5th Airborne Squadron, and at that time, they were the most advanced. And it goes back more and more. The Naytiba seem to have several alphas, and to become an alpha, one must be the best and the strongest. So when eternities are infected, they become the alpha version of Naytiba. As this antagonist circles both Tachy and Eve, she can sense that Eve is a special eternity, even more so than Tachy, and the infectious Naytiba within her wants to continuously be the alpha, wants to be the best, so she seeks out to destroy and perhaps infect Eve so that it can become the most advanced by inhabiting Eve, hence becoming a newer and stronger alpha. However, this plan was spoiled by Tachy's sacrifice. The Alpha Naytiba discards Tachy because she knows Eve would be a better body to infect and take over. But that plan is also spoiled, this time by Adam. Adam takes Eve away with him, and with Eve now gone, the Alpha Naytiba looks to Tachy's body to infect. It does so through Tachy's left arm. It previously sliced Tachy's arm off, so the infection can run through her body. Although the Alpha Naytiba did not get her prized goal of infecting and taking over Eve, it still got a powerful upgrade through Tachy, being that she is from the 7th Airborne Squadron and a more recent eternity. It was already shown in Stellar Blade's first trailer that Tachy will become an Alpha Naytiba in this clip as Adam warns Eve that Tachy is an Alpha Naytiba. I still don't get why Shift Up showed us this clip, as it seems to be a mid or late game reveal that is supposed to be a surprise. We can see that Tachy doesn't have her left arm, and in another clip we see Eve battling Tachy and slicing off one of Tachy's black angel wings with her blade, the Blood Edge. And when we pause this clip, we can see a huge Naytiba-like growth protruding from Tachy's left arm. So this tells us Tachy is definitely infected with Naytiba. And according to my thoughts about the Alpha Naytibas always wanting to become more quote-unquote alpha, this cycle of the Naytiba upgrading their alpha versions of themselves will continue to occur each time a new airborne squadron is sent to Earth, unless the current one is successful. But it seems that they have failed at least a handful of times. We know that Lily Artemis is part of the 5th Airborne Squadron, so it's quite sad to know that humans have sent numerous Eternities/angels to Earth in hopes of accomplishing their mission, only to have failed numerous times. We hope that Eve can stop this cycle. Tachy's fate is also pretty sad to see here, but I do believe there is hope for her. It's too much to go into now as this video is getting quite long, but I believe Tachy will not transition completely into an Alpha Naytiba, but instead will again fight alongside Eve and eventually witness Eve fulfill her purpose. I'll definitely make another video more about Tachy and what I think will happen in greater detail, but let's at least look at this. The opening clip of Stellar Blade's first trailer shows Eve cycling through a devastating attack on what appears to be a monstrous Naytiba, where she impales it with a metallic component, and as she swings upward, she catches Tachy's sword and impales the Naytiba from above. So unless Eve just takes Tachy's sword for herself, the two are definitely going to battle as comrades again. It was so cool to see Eve and Tachy do a synchronous attack on the brute boss Naytiba at the start of the demo. So I think it would be such a missed opportunity if we didn't see them fight side by side again. I think there is a lot of care that Tachy shows for Eve, and they definitely have a pre-existing relationship, as Tachy mentions training with Eve. So it would be really nice if we could see some of that relationship. We saw flashbacks in the demo when Adam tells Eve what happened to her after he rescued her, so it would be really nice if we could see flashbacks of Eve and Tachy's relationship. It would also be great to see their relationship continue to grow, perhaps culminating in Tachy sacrificing herself for Eve, and also at the same time seeing Eve fulfill her destiny/purpose. Now that leads me to my last point. What is Eve's purpose? We can finally see the writing written out in full now that we have some 4K gameplay of the demo floating around on YouTube. Eve's right leg reads from bottom to top, Eve, Protocol 7th Descending Force Assault Squad. And then it's important to know that Eve is an acronym. It is spelled with all capital letters, so EVE probably stands for something related to her purpose, but we just don't know what that is yet. But what is the Eve Protocol? Most people know Adam and Eve as the parents of the human race according to Christianity, so the Eve Protocol probably is something related to bringing about life on Earth. We know Eve's main goal is to destroy all enemy Naytiba, but there has to be more than that. Whether that means wiping out all Naytiba so humankind can return to Earth, helping Adam find the power side he is looking for in order to resurrect the dormant life in the cradle, or if it is more literal in that Stellar Blade's Eve and Adam will consummate and bring forth a new version of life through Eve bearing literal children, it's really unknown. Perhaps maybe it's all three of those ideas, or maybe even more. Great storytelling always has multiple layers to it, and the story of Stellar Blade already seems quite deep based on the trailers and demo. What I like is that a lot of what occurred in the demo was content we saw in the trailers. Besides what I mentioned about seeing Tachy as an upgraded Alpha Naytiba at the end of the first trailer, we really haven't seen too much more in the demo that we didn't already see in the previous trailers. So in a way, I'm glad we haven't figured out what the Eve Protocol is, as it keeps us full of anticipation for the game. So until that time, we'll just have to wait and see what the Eve Protocol really is. Okay guys, those have been my thoughts about the demo, with relation to what Shift Up is using as its inspiration and what I think is going to happen with the antagonists Alpha Naytiba, Tachy, and Eve. The idea of what the Alpha Naytiba are and the cyclical nature of who they infect and inhabit, that being members of previously failed Airborne Squad members, makes this story much more tragic in scope. I really hope my thoughts hold true here. To think that humanity is sending each new iteration of an eternity to Earth in hopes of wiping out the Naytiba, a mistake that humanity seemed to create itself, is also pretty earth-shattering if it is true. Okay guys, I know this was a really long one, so I want to thank you for sticking around here with me. We went kinda far out there in the effort to draw some connections and to see where perhaps the Shift Up team was gathering inspiration for Stellar Blade. Thanks so much for coming, I truly appreciate your time. I know you guys could be anywhere right now, so it means a lot to have you here. If you do have a thought you'd like to share, let me know what you think in the comments section below. I'll be jumping down there myself to keep up the discussion with you all. See you next time. Peace.